My 7-year-old girl, completely innocent in all of this, ended up staring down the barrel of a gun held by Karen, our unhinged HOA president. Let me back up and tell you how it got to that point. I'd just gotten home from a long shift, dreaming of nothing but pulling off my boots and collapsing on the couch, when I noticed something crammed into my mailbox. Yet another letter, another glaring yellow HOA notice. This one had the nerve to chew me out for parking my own car in my own driveway overnight. I was seconds from losing it. Then I actually checked the rulebook. And sure enough, it was technically against the rules. Still, something about it rubbed me the wrong way. Every other house on the block had cars parked out front too, entire rows of them, day after day. I'd seen it myself. None of them ever got written up. So why me? I was irritated, but I told myself it wasn't worth the fight, paid the fine, and moved on. A few days after that, I stepped outside, coffee in hand, and found yet another envelope waiting, like some cursed recurring gift. This time it had nothing to do with cars. No, this time I'd been cited for a basketball hoop sitting in my driveway. The same kind of hoop nearly every house on the street had, some with two. I stood there, mug halfway to my lips, and that's when something inside me cracked. This wasn't random anymore. It hit me hard. This had nothing to do with rules and everything to do with Karen, the self-appointed HOA queen, singling me out like she'd circled my address in red. I paced the living room, crumpled paperwork in my fist. It wasn't the money that bothered me. It was being made the villain when I hadn't done a single thing differently from anyone else. And the kicker? Karen had her own basketball hoop standing proudly in her own driveway, yet somehow her name never made it onto any notice. My anger climbed higher, but underneath it, a plan was starting to take shape. If she wanted to make this a personal fight, so be it. She had no idea what she was starting. I walked straight up to Karen's tidy little porch and knocked once. She pulled the door open, wearing that self-satisfied smirk that instantly made my blood boil. I didn't bother softening it. I told her flat out there was no way she could find me for a hoop when half the street, her included, had one sitting right out front. She leaned against the doorframe like she was striking a pose for a poster, arms folded, and shot back in the coldest tone imaginable. Pay what you owe or deal with what comes next. I don't care what anyone else has. You're the one on my radar. My hands clenched so hard I thought my knuckles might split. This wasn't just double standards anymore. This was a declared war. What followed felt like a badly written horror script directed by pure spite. Karen began piling on $50 late fees for every single day the bill went unpaid. My mailbox turned into a war zone of paper, each envelope shouting delinquent louder than the one before. At first I just ignored it, tossing the letters into a shoebox I stopped bothering to open. But Karen wasn't done. She took it further, dragging my name across every HOA channel she could find, posting in the community chat, branding me careless, lazy, a rule breaker. She paraded around like she'd cracked open some huge scandal. Neighbors started giving me sideways glances when I passed. Some looked sympathetic. Others just smirked, clearly entertained by the show. Karen was running her own public trial, no courtroom required. Cornering people on the sidewalk, finger-wagging, painting me as the worst guy on the block. I'd catch her murmuring to her circle of friends at get-togethers, all of them laughing like it was the funniest thing they'd heard all year. And the worst part, I actually believed that was as far as it would go. I figured her whole goal was to humiliate me into backing down, to bury me under shame and overdue notices until I gave in. I thought the mailbox war and the neighborhood gossip were the peak of it. I was completely wrong. Karen wasn't just flexing. She was gearing up for something much bigger. I could feel it every time our paths crossed, her eyes narrowing like she was sizing up prey. I had no idea how far she was actually willing to take this, but the tension in the air was undeniable, and I knew, somehow, that her next move wasn't going to be small. I'd just finished tightening a loose hinge on the back gate when I heard the school bus hiss to a stop at the corner. My daughter Sophia hopped off, backpack bouncing, braids swinging as she skipped toward home. I couldn't help but smile. Moments like that had a way of melting away every bit of stress I was carrying, but this time she froze at the door. She stood completely still, her small hand hovering just above the doorknob, eyes wide like she'd seen something terrifying. Then I heard it, a scream that tore straight through me. Dad. My blood went cold instantly. I dropped the screwdriver and took off running around the house, heart slamming against my ribs, and then I saw it. The sight that nearly broke my mind entirely. Karen, standing right there on my own porch, aiming a gun at my 7-year-old daughter. For one endless second, everything just stopped. My jaw locked, my hands started shaking, and all I could see was Karen's twisted smile behind that weapon. My little girl was sobbing, voice cracking as she cried out for me again, tears pouring down her face, her whole body trembling with fear. "Have you completely lost your mind?" I shouted, my voice carrying so far that neighbors came pouring out of their houses. Phones came out instantly, capturing every second of Karen's breakdown. Her eyes had a wild, unhinged shine to them. "You'd better settle what you owe," she snarled, her finger twitching dangerously near the trigger. "Or I just might pull this. Don't test me. I won't think twice." I could barely breathe. My fists were clenched so tight my nails were cutting into my palms. Neighbors gasped around us, some screaming at her to lower the weapon, others too stunned to move. Someone yelled that they'd already called 911. The whole street filled with panicked voices, crying, and the steady click of cameras capturing every second of the madness. But Karen, she didn't budge an inch. She actually wore an expression of pride, like she was making some grand point in front of the entire neighborhood. My daughter's sobs sliced through the air, each one landing like a blow straight to my chest. This had stopped being petty HOA drama a long time ago. This was a full-blown nightmare, and Karen had just crossed a line there was no walking back from. Sirens sliced through the chaos before I even caught sight of the flashing lights. The crowd of neighbors split apart as two patrol cars skidded to a stop right in front of my house. Karen, still gripping the gun, spun toward the onlookers with a twisted, victorious smile and shouted, "About time. Officers, arrest him. He's refused to comply with HOA rules." Her voice practically dripped with arrogance, like she genuinely believed she was still in charge of the situation. But the officers weren't buying any of it. One drew his weapon immediately and ordered, "Ma'am, drop the weapon." Now, there was nothing polite in his tone, no patience for HOA business, just a hard, commanding edge that cut straight to the bone. The moment Karen's hold loosened, my daughter bolted into my arms, her small body shaking against me. I wrapped her up tight, refusing to let go for even a second. Karen's gaze flicked nervously between the officer's raised gun and the sea of neighbors filming her every move. Slowly, she lowered the weapon, but not before throwing me one final poisonous glare, like some part of her still believed she'd come out on top. Within moments, she was in cuffs, forced into the back of the cruiser as the crowd erupted into shouts and stunned disbelief. Phones were recording from every direction. I already knew this clip would spread by morning, but I had no intention of stopping at public embarrassment. Not after she aimed a gun at my child. That night, I called my lawyer. By the next morning, we had a full list of charges ready that would bury Karen far deeper than any HOA violation ever could. Aggravated assault with a deadly weapon, child endangerment, brandishing a firearm, infliction of emotional distress, the entire arsenal. The day of the trial was brutal for her. Karen walked in wearing an orange jumpsuit, every trace of her old smugness gone, her hair disheveled and out of place. Every detail of her breakdown played out on the courtroom screen for the jury to witness, and neighbor after neighbor took the stand against her. The judge showed no mercy. 15 years in prison and $1.5 million in punitive damages, awarded directly to me and my family. On top of that, she lost her right to own a firearm for the rest of her life. Karen, the woman who once ruled the neighborhood through fear and pettiness, was led out of the courtroom in shackles, her entire reign of intimidation reduced to nothing. The end.